Welcome to Wild Park. Today we're going to do a little bit of target archery. I'm going to take you through the safety brief first before we get shooting. So first things first, we need to establish whether you are right or left-handed, and for the purposes of this demonstration I'm going to put the arm guard on my right arm because I'm left-handed. The wide part of the arm guard goes just above the elbow on the inside of your forearm. You can either do this yourself or your instructor will do it for you, but basically just clip the straps round so that the arm guard's secure onto your arm. Okay, so we've got the arm guard on and that's in its correct position just on the inside of your forearm, just covering that elbow joint should the string make contact with your arm. Right, so first things first then, we need to get you stood in front of your equipment and make sure that your body is in the correct position. So if you stand with your toes pointing towards the ground quiver and you keep your body at 90 degrees to the target, that is about right. That should see you through. Once you're in position, your coach will ask you then to pick up your bow and get your hand on the bow. Now, an important thing you've got to remember, these arrows, yes, they are sharp at that end because we want them to stick in the target, but they are just as sharp at this end. And the reason I'm telling you that, when you go to pick your bow up, do not bend right down to pick the bow up with the actual handle. Keep your face away from these sharp points. So what we always ask people to do is just lift the bow off the ground quiver with the string and then place your hand in this recessed portion, and that's where you should be holding your bow. Keep your bow upright, take an arrow from the quiver. You'll notice that on these arrows, the feathers, or the fletchings as we call it, two will be the same colour, one is a totally different colour. Now if you hold the arrow in front of these fletchings, keep the bow upright and point the different coloured fletching back towards you. On the string you can see we've got two little brass ferrules crimped onto the string. This is the knocking point. This is where the arrow is going to sit. So that end of the arrow is called the knock. Place the knock firmly into the knocking point. Make sure you hear a click or feel a click, and then just sit the arrow onto the arrow rest. There's absolutely no need to put a finger over the arrow at any time. It will in fact slow you down and doesn't give you any advantage. So hand on bow, bow upright, and then you're just going to use your three middle fingers. So you need to tuck your thumb and your little finger in as tight as you can and just make a hook with those three middle fingers, and you're going to place those fingers underneath the arrow on this finger protector on the string. So no fingers above, everything kept below the arrow. Okay. So to shoot, it's important that you maintain correct stance, correct posture, stand upright, keep your shoulders relaxed, push everything out towards the target, and then quite simply you're just going to pull your elbow back behind your head and just let your hand follow your jawline to find your cheek. Look at the target, release the string. Okay, so I'll try and demonstrate that. So three fingers underneath, standing upright, look at the target, push the bow out towards the target, elbow back, onto your hand and go. Yeah? Simple as that. Once you've shot your 6 arrows or however many arrows you're shooting, again with the string, drop the bow back onto the ground quiver and then return to the waiting area. So we've shot his end of arrows, it's usually 6 arrows. And now we're going to come down to target. Now, the first thing you need to appreciate is, I did mention back on the shooting line that this end of the arrow is very sharp. So you need to make sure that you don't get too close to the arrows on the target. So don't be reaching in to pull the arrows out because you've got a risk of, doing some injury around here. And certainly anything that's at face level, you've got to be really careful. Now, we have a simple method to retrieve the arrows. You only ever have 2 people pulling arrows at a time. I'm just going to demonstrate it with myself, but basically start from the very outside of the target and work your way towards the centre. And to pull an arrow out, place your hand on the target face next to the arrow, and then your pulling hand, place it on top of the arrow shaft, but right down to the target face. So please don't try pulling them from here, you'll damage the arrows. Right down to the target face, make sure there's nobody stood directly behind you, and then just gently pull it out. Transfer that arrow into your pushing hand so that your pulling hand is always free, and then just work your way across the target and retrieve all your arrows. Now you do this once you've done your scoring and not before. Once you've got your clutch of 6 arrows, get them together, same length, tuck them under your arm Sergeant Major style, and then we walk back to the quiver. Okay, so
now we're doing the
do's and don'ts.
oh sorry.
Yeah. Tell your mum. Right, just a couple of do's and don'ts, just for everybody's safety really. First things first, when you pick your bow up, it's really tempting to start pulling the bow back because everybody's, you know, they're interested in how difficult it is to pull back. Please don't, because these bows are very lightweight, very efficient, which also makes them a little bit fragile. So if you do pull it back and let go of the string, there's a risk that you might damage the bow itself. The other thing is, once you've shot your 6 arrows and you've put your bow back down onto the quiver, please don't decide to walk down to target and get your arrows back. You need to return to the waiting area, and then when the coach is happy and everybody's shot their arrows, then everybody will go down to target at the same time. When you load your arrow, you are effectively in charge of a loaded weapon. So please keep the bow pointing towards the ground or pointing towards your target at all times. We never turn around with a loaded bow for obvious reasons. If for any reason you've got a problem, remove the arrow from the bow, put it back into the quiver, drop the bow onto the ground quiver and get the attention of your instructor and they'll sort it out for you. Okay?